Results are in, everybody. National election results. Good. If you're going to
Yeah, I
say
was
something.
gonna say, before, well, I don't want to say before we get there. I was just gonna say, you know, I remember when
I remember when.
I remember when I lost my mind.
That's
There
what
was
people
something
feeling
so
like right now.
special. Legit, CeeLo's a prophet on that song. But no, I was just thinking. I remember there was a time when I think maybe politics didn't seem so polarizing and divisive.
Mm-hmm.
I think political differences used to be just differences.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Now they're deal breakers.
Mm-hmm.
And with the kind of content, topics that we kind of super serve and talk about on a
Mm-hmm.
regular basis, we had talked about offline how things like election results could impact dating practices.
Yeah.
And I think I had this whole idea in my mind as we talked about how this was going to play out. But kind of walking up to the gallows, I've been like, I don't
Exactly.
know, son.
I'm
I
ready to go to
don't
hell. I don't
know.
care. And you start seeing that noose
And then you
swinging
get
like,
there. Wait, you see the temperature start to rise, and you're like, wait a minute, it get it to 3,000 Fahrenheit up here, down here, 5, 6,000, 10,000 degrees
exactly. You see them
on some
demons.
juvenile 400 degrees. Like, come on, man.
You see them
Like, I don't
demons
know.
hitting that pillow. Like, we got a spot right down
Already.
here. Like, oh, second thought.
So I don't know,
on that
son.
Biggie Smalls. I ain't afraid to die. Can we renegotiate the terms
Yeah,
of
can we
this?
just park? Let's park the car over here real quick. Let's have this last meal, this last supper before we walk down this
Actually,
road.
we'll let the priest come in and give last rites. I thought it was going to be bold and be like, I don't need no last rites, but
We might need that. We might need a pep talk.
yeah.
But not seriously though. I mean, I think obviously with the state of politics in this country, definitely have people, especially the genders at each other's throats.
Gender war. Mm-hmm.
And I think we wanted the effort to talk about it in the context of dating, but I don't know if we get really limited to that.
Scott Galloway, as usual, Saint Scott Galloway, as we say on this podcast, that this election was about women and women's rights, women's reproductive rights, among other types of rights for women, but mainly women's reproductive rights. But it really ended up being about who was casting or marketing the best image of masculinity. What image of masculinity could men aspire to? And I believe that's partially right in that Trump focused on men, especially white men, but he went down, he went up to the Bronx, being the master marketer that he is, went up to the Bronx, went up to other spaces and really got with other men and talked to them. And that just became part of what he did successfully. And what we turned out to be was that in order to if you got white men, you get white women. Whereas I think the Harris campaign thought they were going to get white women. But the whole point of this is to talk about the gender war and how that's impacting people's perceptions of themselves, of what it means to date. How do you feel safe, or how do you feel, more importantly, connected when you're dating amidst such complicated, enraging political discourse?
Enraging is a very apropos word.
Yeah.
It's very apt for this situation where we at with it.
Yeah. People are enraged and some people are in celebratory mode. There's going to be blowback now, and there's going to be blowback going deeper into his tenure as, the president and commander in chief of the United States. The issue that people have about dating is that historically, back in the old misty distant past of the 1980s and 90s, you would meet people through friends, friendship networks, bars, churches, other affiliate, Lions Club, Rotary Club.
Yeah, affinity groups.
Groups.
Like that, yeah.
Even people who were used to run together back in the day. And that gave you at least a glimpse into who this person was, their political values, what mattered to them, their values. Now, of course, if you pull back the curtain, you're going to get more and be exposed to more. But at the time, you at least got a glimpse. So if you asked someone out on a date, and we are all about dating, you at least knew enough that you felt comfortable being with this person in the same space. Even Republican clubs in college, and you would find those spaces. to meet with somebody. Now people are meeting people online, and this is where, we talk about dating. You're meeting people online and you don't have that preset knowledge. You don't have that awareness of who they are. All you're really looking at is a picture, a
Right.
profile.
You don't know what that search history is looking like.
Yeah, you don't know anything about them.
Anything.
Just I thought you just said that little sidebar. Imagine part of your dating profile was like your search
Your
history.
search history. Yeah, I thought about that. That would be crazy.
Just to see the books people have ordered, or the TV shows they've clicked through, just the data fingerprint.
What if you had to publicize your porn history?
Oh, of course, yeah, people would want to see that.
Yeah, no doubt.
Men would be quite surprised by what they would see women have. Maybe they would learn a thing or two. Not to disparage men, I'm just making a point because of
I think some women would be too.
Yeah.
It's probably a lot of dudes out here that like looking at guys.
Yeah, you might be right.
They out here purporting all this masculinity, but
yeah. And online, all you have is a profile with some interesting text, pithy text, witty text, and a picture. You're not really getting exposed to who that person is. And what we're recommending is, in a space where there's such points of access to what a good quality political life looks like here in the United States, you need to take some steps in order to surface that if you identify deeply with your political values. Why do I say if? Because we're living in the age of big identity politics. Identity politics has always been a part of American life, going back to the Constitution. And now it's just become a lot more evident and prevalent because of the rise of social media. And you now need an identity to market yourself. I remember I felt like the end of LinkedIn was when they added pictures in 2010 or a little bit before that, because now it was going to be that much more about branding as opposed to what you saw on a resume. But I think human beings just can't relate to human beings just solely off text, especially when it came to making a very important decision about coming to work for us or being a part of our work community, or some people like to say the work family. Text and resumes just weren't enough. You needed to see what a person looked like. The eyes are the gateways to the soul, and all these other poetic images that we talk and words that we use to describe, access to a human being when you're seeing them.
Corporate aesthetic is important too.
Oh yeah, it is. Yeah, they want to know that your corporate brand and how you present yourself matches with them. Are you a suit person? Are you a suit and tie person, a biz cash person? Are you a coder who's just into, the floppy wear and the shorts with, the flannel? That does matter to people.
Yeah. It's even can I send you out on behalf of the company?
Yes.
How do you look?
Yeah. Yes.
Not even just how you dress around the office.
Yes.
But
yeah, exactly. Can you represent this brand if this is a sales position? And all positions to some extent have a sales marketing element to it, even if it's just strictly internal. And what we want to talk about partly with this episode is, how do you go about, if politics are a part of your identity, go about talking about politics to surface if you have a match with somebody, if that's what you lead with. Some people lead with their race. Some people lead with their gender identity. Some people lead with their gender identity and their gender expression. Some people lead with their church affiliation or their spiritual orientation. They'll put God, Jesus, and they're seeing if there's a religious match, if you're Muslim, if you're Jewish, if you're part of this sect. We're just saying, for today's episode, given the context, the larger context of identity politics that we now operate in, if you're dealing with strictly your political affiliation and values, how are you going to do that online when it comes to dating?
Yeah, that investigation process has got to be thorough.
Yeah.
And I mean, even now, if you look across the apps, they give people the opportunity to filter for political affiliation.
Yeah, because dating a Republican for some Democrats is a big thing. Dating a Democrat for some Republicans is a big thing.
It's a huge issue.
Being independent people are fiercely guarded about that. People who are passionate about the environment, I am a Green Party affiliate, or I am a Green Party participant or member. That's very big for people. What I'm going to say about dating online when it comes to surfacing politics is number one, you have to know yourself. How deeply do you care about your politics? More importantly, what about your politics defines you? Is it about the social justice issues? Is it about the economy? Is it about the people? Is it about the connection? Is it about the camaraderie? Is it about the legacy? Maybe you come from a family that's always been Republican or always been Democrat, fiercely Democrat. Some people come, we're a union family. That's a union man. And, the union gave you that stake and the union gave you this refrigerator. Union paid, gave you that education.
Literally grandfathered in.
Yeah, grandfather in, right? My my grandfather was the first one in this union, and we've always grown up here, and we've always gone to these union meetings. They talk about it in religious terms, the way you would hear people talk about, my great granddaddy was a part of the original members of this church, and now you're part of this church, and you'll get baptized here, just like your great uncle did, and like my brother, and we'll talk about their political affiliations that way. And you have to know what about your political affiliations matter to you. Maybe it's just the political values. Libertarians, I notice, are very big on their principles and values about, libertarianism and, objectivism as it comes from Ayn Rand and, taxes and who should pay for what. They're fiercely protective of that. If you are Republican and you're really tied into how the current structure of America works, you think you would have some overlap with libertarians. Some do. You may not. Depends on what you value as a Republican. If it works with a libertarian, sometimes the libertarians pal around with Republicans because there's also, again, there's a meeting of values. So number one, understand what your political values are and what they mean to you and why, and what about your political values really give life to you. Why are you doing this? Not all Democrats are social justice warriors, but there's some Democrats who are social justice warriors. And that's why they're Democrat, because that's the party they feel that can actually get them there. Number two, you are dating someone because of political affiliation, and that's how you're going to lead online. After you've gone through the pleasantries and you've gone through the get to know yous, the thing is to be gentle in your questioning. It's not an interrogation. This is not a deposition. This is not a leading up to a grand jury investigation. This is potentially, as we advocate here, in the opening stages that can lead to a really healthy date. Be gentle in your questioning. That doesn't mean you just, pussyfoot around questions that, that you want answers to. It means you ask questions in a way that are restorative. For example, hey, big Republican here. I'm very much into these, Republican values. Just want to know, you mentioned you're a Republican in your profile. What about being a Republican motivates you? Or what did you think about the election? I'm a Democrat. And if you're dating a Republican, I want to know, did you vote for so-and-so? Did you vote for, Donald Trump? What did you think of the last election? Did you ever vote Democrat? Did you ever vote across the aisle? What do you think? These are just questions to ask. Now, what's going to happen is people are going to give you answers. Some you may be comfortable with, some you may be uncomfortable with, some you may even be downright confused about because they may be introducing concepts, because some people get so deep with their political philosophy that you're not aware of. That is the time to just listen. Now, this is why I recommend this not be the first part of the conversation, because if you started the conversation and you're vibing with them and you've led now to this part of the conversation, how you were vibing in the beginning may actually encourage you to stick around through the confusion or the discomfort of the answers to the questions that you're getting about politics. That doesn't mean you don't have your hard lines. That doesn't mean that you aren't egregious. I remember someone told me they went on a date with someone, for example, and the person was talking to the waiter crazy. And then when they walked away, they used a racial epithet against the person. The person said, you know what? She sat there for a couple of seconds, said, grab my stuff. I'm getting out of here. Take me home. Oh, no, it's not a big deal. No, it's a very big deal to me. Take me home. You're going to have that equivalent with politics, where someone says something that is a red flag to you, and you may decide to end the conversation and say, this is not for me. And even in that, you can say, hey, great talking with you. I'm just really passionate about my values. That doesn't align with me. I don't want to waste your time, because I'm out here to date, not just to have a good time, but to have a good time that leads to something significant and long-term. Nice meeting you. Take care. Second thing, the first thing, know yourself. The first part is know yourself. Second part, be gentle in your questioning. And I think connected to that would be a third part of it, which would be, after listening, think about your responses. Why think about your responses is number three, because you've been gentle, you've listened. Now in your responses, how are you carefully showing, A, the person that you were listening to them, Meaning, what we talk about when we're talking, you're not fixing in your mind what to say next to combat me or to judge me. You're actually showing me that you were listening to me. So be thoughtful in your responses. Think about your responses. And the ideal way to think about your responses, in my opinion, is, and I can't give you a template because I don't know what you guys would be talking about, is to do what I learned in high school when I was trying to learn another language. Use part of what they said as a structure or an intro to talk about what you want to talk about, or to respond to their question, or to ask an additional question. So if someone says, I'm really big on green energy because I believe it's really safe for the planet, and I believe there's a lot of good economic incentives at the state level that could really just get everyone from coal into this type of manufacturing process for photovoltaics, then you say, oh wow, so you're saying that photovoltaics can actually be a way of providing good quality, economic incentives to people, local businesses and people, and also safe for the planet. How would you think that would work on a federal level if this particular issue ever shows up in the legislature? I mean, you just want to just take your time to show somebody that you're listening. Why is this important? Oftentimes, I've noticed, even with myself, being a listener and someone who studied active listening, once someone strikes a chord with an answer that I find to be uncomfortable, or from my perspective, to be, I would say, in a non-informed opinion, I start to smell blood in the water. If you've shown me you really haven't researched your position, and I don't mean research in the sense of, that's why I strike that word research, because Jay knows how I feel about that word. But if you're not well read on your position and you haven't been thinking or working through with different points of view, turning that concept around left and right, with talking to the left or looking at the right, or talking to people in the middle ground, people who've been problem solvers on the ground with your issue, and you give me a statement that I really believe is uninformed, I start to create a certain position in my response that can be dogmatic or even combative. And the way you're going to war against that or stand against that is reframing what the person said as a way to ask your question. It allows them to feel like they're being heard. And then also that you're showing them that you want to continue to participate in the conversation in a hospitable way. And the last thing I'm going to say after is know yourself, be gentle, be thoughtful in your responses. Is the fourth thing, decision about what you're willing to accept if there's a difference in political values. What matters to you may not matter to me. I once met a couple who was at a marriage event, and the husband was a Republican from New Jersey. The wife was a Democrat from the South, and they had a marriage, like every other marriage, married happily with issues, but nevertheless married. And he said something very amazing to me. He says, I think some of the political discourse is rooted in culture. He goes, for example, I'm a Republican from New Jersey. I can't stand guns. I really don't understand the obsession with guns, don't like guns, and I'm actually for gun regulation. Is my wife, a Democrat, is pro-gun. She has no problems with guns. She's all about guns. Why? Because she grew up in the South, and the gun culture in the South is a lot more free and inclusive of communities. You grow up around guns, you either go hunting or they have guns for protection. It's just a part of their ethos. She has no problem with it. But me, New Jersey, Jersey boy, East Side, East Coast rather, excuse me, and also being a part of maybe northeastern communities, whether it be the suburban, I want to say rural, but suburban and urban communities. I don't see the need for guns. We have a police force here, and maybe you're not big hunters, so you're really not around guns like that. But they were able to work it out. You too will have to think about how to work that out if you're trying to find a person, and you do find a person that you vibe and connect with. You'll have to say, what am I willing to accept? Last thing I'll say about that too, this last point, if you accept it, buy it. Don't start changing the game on people because now you feel uncomfortable, or you are around your friends, or you get around your political community group, and that's a little, they're not necessarily on the same page. You have to now block for your partner. you have to rally for your partner. You have to stand up for your partner. And that means, especially as we're coming into the holiday season, at Thanksgiving, where we know political conversations get very, very heated over cornbread and gravy. I have to make sure that you're sticking by the decision and blocking for your partner for what you agree to accept in those conversations. So those are just 4 points as far as dating people online and dealing with your political differences. Number one, know yourself and your political motivations and the roots of your political philosophy. 2, gentle questioning. 3, think about your responses or be thoughtful in your responses so that you understand how to respond to them using a part of what they said to ask your next question or to indicate and show them you're not just listening to argue them down or combat them, but to actually show them that you want to learn more about them and what their political beliefs are. Last thing I'll say is accept, be comfortable with what you are going to accept. There are going to be differences in your political beliefs and your political philosophies with a potential partner. What are you willing to accept? What are your boundaries? What are theirs? And be able to share them, know them, and most importantly, once you accept them, defend your partner when sometimes you get in other communities that you belong to, those values are going to be become challenged.
That's so tough. I'm just thinking about it, like imagining a couple being at a party, and because we have a mutual friend who has a friend who votes red and has some very hostile POVs about her friends who vote blue. And I'm just like imagining them being at a party, and as a friend, I'm around other people who vote blue, but I have to come to her defense and her aid when she's in this maybe politically heated conversation. And I'm like, well, I really side with the people over here, but because you came with me, I don't want people ganging up on you.
Absolutely.
I gotta, you know what I mean? I gotta hold you down.
Yeah, also, what I've noticed online is people get politically brave.
Chest get puffed up.
Yeah, chest get puffed up. Them keyboards look like they got sparks coming out of them because you're just.
You saw the Kermit meme? It was just him.
Yeah, exactly.
Going crazy on the keyboard.
That was that was an old school Facebook gem, man. That used to be that was one of the joints 10 years, almost 15 years ago. People were sending around Facebook.
That was a good one.
Yeah, the Kermit on the typewriter.
Yeah, he was going nuts. But yeah, no, I feel you.
And the instance that a friend is just a contentious individual, you then have to think about, okay, have I had the conversation with them that, hey, when we go out, I notice you stand by your political beliefs, no problem. But I notice you get snarky, you get combative, you get hostile.
Yeah.
You're not listening. You're not even trying to bridge gaps or just, hey, respectfully, I decline respectfully. You're just fomenting anger and trying to connect with people through hostility. At that point, as a friend, if you haven't had that conversation, then you need to have it if you're uncomfortable. If you have the conversation and they're still pressing the issue, you then have to make a decision about when you let them get a little fire back on them, or when you feel, hey, listen, I just can't allow you to come to these events. And you may have to cherry pick when they show up or when they don't show up.
Yeah.
Because ultimately,
or just how you engage them.
Yeah. Ultimately, I think some of these issues, not all, are about people who become so demonstratively loud about what they believe. I knew a dude who told me his brother was dating a young woman who came from a very rich family, but she was born again. And everywhere they went, she was trying to win a soul for Christ. Couldn't go anywhere. You'd be in the Trader Joe's paying for your brookie, your salad, and your face. Your face.
Anybody talk to you about?
Yeah, literally. That's
Christ,
how you.
Why you get that salad?
You're at back when people used to go to the movie theaters. You're trying to get your tickets to the movies. Hey, can I talk to you about Jesus? Your guy who rips the tickets on the movies. Can I talk to you about? It was just boom, 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 and so it got to a point that he broke up with her about it. Now this is a guy who was afterward with his wife, woman he did marry, on mission trips, but it was just too much. He couldn't do anything without her trying to minister. It became overbearing. And a lot of times people are like that with their politics. They're just overbearing.
Sure.
They have to say what they need to say about the current events or their political positions or a political philosopher or a pundit or a TV public intellectual who was on TV. All that now becomes game and a conversation starter. And for some people, it's just not that serious.
Yeah. And it's not even a real conversation. It's just them talking and pontificating and bloviating. Like that's really what it becomes.
Oh,
Like you said,
absolutely.
they're just loud and obstinate about their political beliefs.
Yeah.
Like they're right. Like all of them are right.
Yes, absolutely.
Like every narrative in the conversation about an issue that they're on the side of is right.
Oh,
And it's like,
absolutely.
that's the reason why things are so polarized in this country, because so many people think every narrative on their side is right. Like there's got to be some given. Like the art of dialogue politically, I feel like it's damn near gone, if not already. Like obviously there are some people who are still willing to come to the table and be like, yo, regardless who's in the seat, we got to find ways to move forward as a country or find a middle ground. Like there are people who do think that way and move like that, but for the majority, it's like that shit is far gone. Ain't no dialogue.
Oh yeah, and it's been fomented because we are now addicted to porn, and by porn, I'm referring to outrage porn.
Mm-hmm.
The outrage porn to me is more ubiquitous and problematic than the skin porn that so many people are addicted to. The
That's a
outrage
bar.
porn is more addictive, more problematic, and many of us can do the outrage porn anywhere. People who pull, right now, if you went to a religious service or funeral and you're waiting for the mass or the service to start or the funeral to start, you take out your phone and you're scrolling. Now, most people, common sense, we're sitting around other people. Maybe they have their phone on mute. Even with their phone on mute, they're not going to go to porn. Right. In the pew of the house of worship, or you're in the back of the funeral home. People are coming in crying, sobbing. You're just looking at your phone because waiting time before they start the service, and even on mute, you're not looking at porn. Like, oh, what are you doing? What's going on, Jeff? Oh, Big Butts 2 just dropped. I gotta get it in when I can. Before the old lady, I go home with the old lady. You're not going to do that, but you will look at the subtitles of someone annihilating someone from the opposite side about trans rights or DEI or Trump or Kamala or
Diddy or anybody.
Yeah,
a lot of this stuff.
The art of the filibuster. We need to crack the filibuster. Or you're just reading Twitter and there are just multiple slams and disses that are happening in a thread, and you're just enjoying and taking in all that outrage. And you're like, this is what I'm fucking talking about. Right under your breath. Yes, motherfucker got get. Look at this. Look at that. Easy. And we're all addicted to outrage on some level. There's enough to be outraged about. So the next thing is it just has to be pornified. Part of our habits now as consumers online, or I would say digital consumers.
We're on the extreme side of consumption.
Yeah, we are. I mean, we don't rest. We don't sleep. We don't take time to follow the natural rhythms of our bodies that in the ways that we've evolved or we were designed.
If we even know what those are, because hardly any of us touch the ground barefoot.
Yes,
yeah. So
grounding, all that. Yeah. So we're missing out on all of the ways that we can remain sane, healthy, connected. I think that type of consumption of I need to have now, and I need to satisfy myself right now. The outrage porn is fueling that need. Right? It satisfies it makes me feel better about myself and my POV, especially if somebody defending my POV. It happens now and it's immediate. And then third, it just gives me hope about who I am. And so it's like, that's what porn does, man. It just gives you that shot of hope or that shot of connection that you need, even if it's temporary or not even rooted in reality. Because
just
as people, just a hit. Like people said, if you were face to face with that person, and I'm taking violence out of it, if you were face to face with that person, you wouldn't be saying that. Not sometimes because you'd be intimidated or scared, but just social conventions. You may be the kind of person who's really not that great with explaining yourself and using your words in person, speech, trying to verbalize or articulate what you're thinking. You may not be the kind of person who, when you're out and about maintaining space feels comfortable. So naturally, online, you're going to say a lot of things. The screen provides a lot of boldness. Like we say, drunk typing, liquid bravery.
Yeah.
Screen bravery is just as powerful as liquid bravery. And then, of course, you talk about getting slapped in your mouth and all that. Then that's a different story as well.
Right.
I mean, there's always going to be that threat. But I think some of the things people think, oh, you wouldn't say that in person. I don't think it's always violence. I just think you wouldn't say that in person. You know what I mean? Somebody could just walk away. It's like, oh, I ain't got time for that.
It's my stop.
Yeah,
I'm out of here.
Yeah, exactly.
You coming over here trying to debate me. This is how I feel. This is what I think. And I'm like, I might be resolved and very resolute about allowing you to think how you think. I feel like how I feel, and we never have to meet anywhere.
Yeah.
I'm just okay with you existing in your space and me existing in mine.
Yeah, that's all it is. Sometimes
it's no need for this. It's no need for this to escalate the violence.
Yeah,
because we don't have to be in the same space.
No.
But yeah, so I feel you. A lot of people definitely Twitter fingers turn to trigger fingers. We know how that goes.
Yeah, and that's going to be easy. I mean, people have, I have an issue with Mark Zuckerberg or Elon Musk or David Stewart. That's the black billionaire dude. He's not really that active online, but whatever it is, a lot of people just back down because awkward in front of people. It's a habit that most of us as human beings have. Really don't have a strong grasp of sometimes our own charisma or our own ability to start arguing with people in a way that we feel will be successful. Because think about it, you write something, you publish it, in that case, right, when you're going back and forth with somebody. I'm not talking about now podcasts, just like Twitter, for example. You publish it and someone gets to respond, you read it, you publish it and respond. In real life, you start to speak and someone just starts speaking over you. What if they're just a better public speaker, a better orator, and they just know how to shut you down? Mm-hmm. So you're like, well, no, see, you're stuttering. That's the problem. People like you stutter, and then you're stuttering when you're lying. But I'm not lying. Yes, you are. Stop it. You're lying right now.
So they know all the argument techniques and all of that.
Yeah, they know how to get you.
They know the mental manipulations. They know all of that.
Yeah. They use their height on you, and right. It's not going to go to physical violence, but there's definitely intimidation happening because you can't out argue them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's like how Mike Tyson was telling people on that Joe Rogan podcast, like, okay, so what? I'm voting for Trump. Now what you gonna do? You gonna come beat me up? I don't think so.
Yeah, but Mike is the kind of dude who's also going to welcome that. Meaning somebody may be like, I didn't, then, all right, come on. And now, once you get there and he hits you once or twice, if you even survive that.
Right. Was it worth it?
Yeah, you're going to start thinking like that.
You're going to start thinking like that. Was it worth it? I might be able to do that with the bozo walking down the street. But even then, I don't know his fighting capabilities.
The bozo on the street doesn't know how to fight. You go to punch him, you slip, you put your knee on the concrete. Now you still bit the bozo, but you got to be in the emergency room, and they're like, "Yo, you busted up your knee pretty bad. You need surgery." Now you're trying to do all your activities. You're planning to go on a trip somewhere. Your knee's messed up, and you start, was that really?
Was it necessary? Was it worth it? Yeah, no.
The screen doesn't do that. The screen just keeps it static. It's just like a conveyor belt of just experience and emotion. Nothing stops. Nothing breaks. It usually just goes boom, 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 boom. So you feel emboldened. What's really going to happen? How is this experience that I'm experiencing of me interacting this way via the screen really going to be disrupted in this moment that's going to make me second think I shouldn't be doing this? I mean, you grew up in Newark. I grew up in New York City. I'm by no means a tough guy or coming from the streets, but we've all heard it walking down the streets in Newark, and you're in Harlem. Yo, what'd you say to me? That alone is going to make you go, oh. Now, maybe you could beat maybe you could take him. Maybe you can't. But that's not happening when you outraging on the screen.
Yeah.
Someone's like, don't talk to me at that. Oh, another liberal crybaby, another conservative crybaby. You could easy, but when someone says, yo, I said don't talk to me like that, you're going to be like, all right, you know what? I have to think.
Then the conversation. Then it's a
conversation. Do I,
if
I can see by their body language and the tone of their voice, which are very key elements of communication between human beings. Is this really going to go? If I continue to press the pedal to the metal, as they say.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to go somewhere. And do I really want to go there?
Especially if it's two men. Like Jordan Peterson said, there's always that underlying threat of violence
Mm-hmm.
when we talk.
Mm-hmm. Do I really want to go there today? I have a
Right.
date at 9. The chick, I got a
I
beat
have to
from.
take my child to school tomorrow.
Yeah. Yes.
Am I gonna get in a fight and get arrested or worse?
Yeah.
Just, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's I understand the polarity of it all. I understand the weight and the breadth of it all, because these differences are really as far as the east is from the west politically. Like this country really is divided on that level.
Yeah, we are.
And you see what the conversations are surrounding it. So it's like, it's nothing to take lightly, but I oftentimes feel like it's just another thing, another reason for us to be at each other's throats. Like we already there. We already argue about so much, about gender issues, about
Race.
cultural differences, about race, about class, about like.
It becomes
So
part of the political
I
dialogue
mean,
too.
goodness gracious.
Yeah. It's also hard because human beings by nature politic. The political arguments that we're having now seem high stakes. So when I think back to my mother, for example, she was a nurse. She was a nurse for many years, about 50 years. And back in the 60s, remember, before abortion was illegal, women would use hangers and kill themselves, right? They would die from using a hanger. And it's crazy, right? Then Roe versus Wade was fought, and that moved forward. And I don't know if there was so much political upheaval. And again, I'm not a historian, so I could be giving misinformation. Please, it's not disinformation. It means I'm uneducated. I'm just trying to walk through what I was experiencing as a child and story. So this is all anecdotal, everybody. Learning about abortion at a very young age. And I went to a Catholic school, and there was some Catholic marketing around abortions, but they also tried to take it from a historical perspective in the 1700s. I remember watching a video on that. They wheel out the AV with the wheels making noise and put in a
VHS
VHS,
No
VCR
doubt.
tape, VHS, and talk about it. It was not as big in the 90s. It started getting bigger, and then it just became a little bit more of a crescendo from there. But it wasn't crazy to me. It was seen as, oh, here are these instances coming from that, political perspective where women are raped, and there's incest, and there's, SA happening. Just trying to keep my words for TikTok because we clip this. This is when people need these medical interventions. A pregnancy can go a certain way, and the mother needs to be saved, and this happens this way, and this now is like politicization. Everything is politicized, and even the vaccines. It's just like, wow, how did vaccines become politicized? And I think what's happened is, with the rise of the internet through message boards, forums, new ways for people who have similar points of view or similar feelings about politics and the government are able to connect, we are now nurturing each other in our, I would say, respective faiths, euphemistically, using air quotes for those who can't see it. And people are feeling more emboldened on their points of view. But what happens is you get into these echo chambers and you don't get any other type of feedback to challenge. And the great thing about having your beliefs challenged is two things happen. Either you change, which is a great way because you become smarter or better because you changed your point of view, or you deepen your convictions. And that helps you because now you've learned another way to think about what you believe in, and to find a deeper way to A, connect with it, and then B, be able to share it with somebody else from a different place of conviction, as opposed to the points that you that you had prior to that interaction. So there's nothing necessarily wrong happening, or you're not necessarily getting dissed. But when it's done in a way to humiliate people, make fun of them, or you're a libtard, you're a crybaby conservative, and look at who you are, and you categorize people, and you use labels, and you bring people before the firing squad of the internet, or the firing squad of your comments, or the firing squad of your group chat and WhatsApp, then people start to feel like, I got to get you
They're
back.
gonna get defensive.
I'm
Yeah,
gonna have to
they're
get you
gonna
back.
get defensive.
I have to run that back on you. I'm gonna have to
They're
run
gonna
that
get
back
defensive.
on you. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, you'll call me on the block this day, but I'll be back. I'll be back, and then when I come back with my goons, we'll see. We'll see
Let the
who's
chips
laughing
fall
now.
where they
Yeah,
may.
yeah. We'll see who's laughing now. We'll see who's retweeting and reposting then. And that's what
Yeah.
happens. You don't really get, good quality dialogue anymore. Some of these, I think, debates are interesting. I mean, I'm not a conservative, but I will watch conservative media. I don't really like some of the conservative media for its, I would say, like it, obviously, because I'm not a conservative, it's hard to relate to some of their points. But I do watch it to see what they say, because how can I really critique conservative media if I'm not watching conservative media on some level? I don't, indulge in it, swimming in conservatives with their own condominiums. Oh, you can't quote him anymore. But I don't do that. But I mean, if I'm not watching one or two channels and hearing what they have to say, I keep conservative people in my newsfeed and Instagram to see what they're talking about, what their values are, understanding their intonation, or really from writing, because I'm not watching videos that much. But what are their values? What are they critiquing? I don't have progressive people because I'm naturally progressive in many of my political values and beliefs, even though I wouldn't call myself a progressive. I wouldn't identify with anything really, but I would say I'm more, left on the left than I am on the right. But how do you keep dialogue going? And I've seen conservatives do that. Oddly enough, there are some conservatives. Well, one in particular I know who will read across, the left, or people who are coming from that side, just because they want to be exposed to different ideas and understand. And I think that's the better way of either even from a perspective of attacking your enemy. I know my enemy. I know myself, right? We talked about that in our episode. I know myself, but I also now know my enemy. So even if you're coming from that point of being an enemy, how could you know your enemy if you're not studying them? If you're not exposing yourself, if you're not watching Sean Hannity, Laura Ingraham, if you're not engaging with the Ben Shapiros, Patrick Bet Davids, the Andrew Tates. I mean, I wouldn't even call Piers Morgan. See, that's the funny. I wouldn't call Piers Morgan conservative. I wouldn't call Bill Maher conservative. I think they have some conservative parts to how they flow, and they're definitely conservative on a couple of issues. But I wouldn't call them inherently conservative. But what happens on the internet with politics is we play this purity game. I was talking to someone the other day, even among like socialists, they'll say, "Well, yeah, yeah. And if you're not that, I walk away from you." That's the crazy thing. People are stranded on an island and need each other to get off, and you start arguing about colognes, and someone says, "Well, I preferred Burberry when I had, well, I wanted Versace." Screw you. That's fine. Can you keep helping me build the raft? No. F yourself. Build your own raft.